Hello friends, good evening to all. Is my voice audible? Somebody please confirm. Can somebody please confirm, is my voice audible? Is my voice audible friends? Please confirm.
Yes, sir, audible.
So somebody responded at last. I can see that 9 or 10 members are there in the group. Nobody is even bothered to confirm, say yes or no. Don't understand what kind of attitude this is. Anyhow, friends, I will wait for a few minutes and is it not? It's not clear. Is it clear or it's breaking? Now still is it breaking friends or is it clear? Let's wait for another 2 minutes, friends, and we'll start in sharp 2 minutes time. If the voice is breaking, friends, please somebody just inform me in the chat box so that I can maybe try connecting another Wi-Fi option available. Now how is it? Is it clear or still it is breaking?
सर क्लियर आ रहा है मेरे यहाँ पे।
अभी क्लियर है ना? ठीक है, चलिए अच्छी बात है। अगर बीच में अगर ब्रेकिंग हो रहा है तो प्लीज कोई इन्फॉर्म कीजिएगा, क्योंकि मुझे तो नहीं पता चलेगा, है ना? Right, I think near about 16 members have joined, friends. Being a Sunday, it's quite obvious that some people may be busy in their own engagement, so let them listen to it offline. So before we start, definitely I appreciate all the people who have joined in for the live session, because it's being Sunday and it is quite difficult to get the members coming in for a live session on Sundays. So that in itself shows that maybe that curiosity and interest is there to study the things, and this curiosity and interest are basically the basic requirement that you need to develop in order to ensure that you master this wonderful art of practicing classical homeopathy. So without wasting time, let's start our session, friends. And in today's session, we are going to discuss in detail about some of the common methodologies that majority of us very conveniently follow today. We don't bother to think, or knowingly or unknowingly, we tend to run after such methodologies which sometimes never make any sense. And when we do that, friends, you have to keep in mind that we are basically playing with the health and life of our patients. So it's a big dangerous task. You cannot neglect your duty, or you cannot neglect your responsibilities when you are handling the health concerns of your patient. You have to ensure that you are doing justice to them. Just for your own earning, you cannot play with their life and health. That is very serious crime, as Hahnemann has told. I'll show you that quote towards the end. So now tell me, friends, what is the most common methodology that almost 95% of doctors very conveniently practice today? What is that methodology which majority of us very conveniently use today? Can anybody tell me? What is that methodology which majority of us very conveniently use today? क्या है? कौन सी ऐसी मेथोडोलॉजी है जो हम में से अधिकतर लोग बहुत कन्वीनियंटली आज यूज करते हैं? One second, friends.
Combination, sir.
Yes, combination. That is called as multiple prescription. One second, friends. One second, just hold on.
Using patents, sir.
One second, friends. One second, just hold on. Just confirm if you are able to see my screen or not. Are you able to see my screen, friends? Please confirm. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we will discuss the methodologies, and the most common methodology that majority of us conveniently practice today is polypharmacy. Polypharmacy is giving more than one remedies at a time, either in combination or maybe in an interval, very short interval time. Prescribing more than one remedy is called as polypharmacy. Now, right from the very beginning, first year, we study that Homeopathy is based on single remedy concept. But by the time you get passed out, or those people who have seen other doctors practicing, what do you think? What is the percentage of doctors, friends who use multiple remedies at the same time or who use this polypharmacy? What is the percentage? What can be the percentage? What is your observation? आपने क्या देखा है? कितने परसेंटेज ऑफ डॉक्टर्स मल्टीपल रेमेडीज एक साथ यूज करते हैं? कितने लोगों को आपने देखा है? More than 95%, 85%. See friends, when I was in Kochi long years back, I did a random study to understand how many people actually use this polypharmacy. And I could find that in my city, I stay in a place called Kochi. It is a metro city in Kerala. And I could not even find even a single doctor who is prescribing a single remedy. Even in the colleges I went, I could see that even from colleges, I was given multiple remedy prescriptions. Now, to what extent that can be justified, we will see that. Now, we will use some logic, friends, and you decide whether this methodology has to be accepted or discarded. Now, as I have told you the other day, if you all decide that, it's your wish, you can decide. If you all decide that this methodology has to be discarded, then you have to give me an assurance that you will never go back to that methodology again in your life. You will put efforts to learn the right things. So that assurance many have given me the other day. I hope you will stick with your words. So let's resume. Let's use some logic to understand how this polypharmacy is and how it is. Is it logical way of prescribing, or does it make sense or not? Let's use some common sense thinking and try to understand it. Now, you may be, where does our remedies act, friends? Let's revise some basics. Where does our indicated remedy act? Where it will act? कहाँ पे एक्ट करेगी हमारी मेडिसिन? On vital force, correct. So now, although we do not know exactly how our remedies act, but we believe that the indicated remedy will produce the symptoms that already exist in a patient in a little higher intensity, thereby removing the original symptoms. That is similia similibus curantur. This is what we believe in, isn't it? Yes or no? Correct, right? Now just imagine, friends, now just imagine we are prescribing two remedies to a patient, and both these remedies which we are prescribing to the patient has the potential to produce the original symptom that exists in the patient. Let's say that, for example, the patient is having sore erectations and we are prescribing Naxomica and Carbovage, both. Now this Naxomica and Carbovage both has the potential to produce these sore erectations. Now use your brain, think and tell me, in such a situation, which remedy will actually produce the symptom to remove the original symptom? Let's say that remedy A is Naxomica and remedy B is Carbovage, as you can see in the image. And the original symptom is sore erectations. Now both these remedies has the potential to produce that symptom. So which remedy will act? And who will decide that? बताइए, आपका लॉजिक क्या कहता है? देखते हैं. ऐसे में अगर दो रेमेडी हम देते हैं, जो पेशेंट में जो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग जो सिम्टम है, वो दोनों मेडिसिन वो सिम्टम प्रोड्यूस करने की क्षमता अगर रखता हो, तो एक्चुअली वो सिम्टम जो कौन सी रेमेडी प्रोड्यूस करेगी ताकि ओरिजिनल सिम्टम्स को निकाल दिया जाए शरीर से? विच रेमेडी विल प्रोड्यूस? टेल मी, क्या क्या कहता है लॉजिक? द मोस्ट सिमिलिमम विल एक्ट. दैट इज वन आंसर दैट वी हैव गॉट. व्हाट अबाउट अदर्स? बाकी लोग बताइए. बाकी लोग बताइए क्या लॉजिक हो सकता है? अभी अगर हम कहेंगे, if we say that let the most simillimum act, we are given two options to the vital force, let the vital force select the most simillimum. Is it going to help? Then our work will become very simple. We will at a time give 50 or 60 probable medicines and let the most simillimum act. Is that going to work? Is that going to work, friends? So what do you think? So that option is ruled out. You cannot say that the most minimum will act. What else can be the probable answers? Let's see what are the other arguments that people can give. Now just imagine, friends, is it going to happen that these remedies will argue among themselves and decide who is going to produce the original symptom? Does the remedies has that brain to think and fight among themselves to produce the original symptom? That is also not going to happen. है ना? हमारे रेमेडीज में इतना दिमाग तो होता नहीं है कि आपस में झगड़ा करके डिसाइड कर लेंगे कि कौन सी रेमेडी कौन प्रोड्यूस करेगा कौन सा सिम्टम. ये तो हो नहीं सकता. या फिर ऐसा भी नहीं हो सकता ना कि जैसे देखिए इलेक्शन से पहले क्या होता है, जो टाई अप होता है ना, प्री इलेक्शन टाई अप. अभी जैसे in a state, if election is approaching, then the different political parties, they have a tie up. Combinedly they will come with a combined plan to fight the elections combinedly. थोड़े एरियाज में एक पार्टी लड़ेगी, बाकी एरियाज में दूसरी पार्टी लड़ेगी. मतलब अगर 10 symptoms, original symptoms has to be produced in a patient, this remedy will compromise. Is that going to happen? अरे 5 symptom तुम प्रोड्यूस करो, बाकी रिमेनिंग 5 में प्रोड्यूस करता हूँ. ऐसा होने वाला है क्या? Is that going to happen? It's also not possible, right? Now some people can say that अरे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, let any remedy act. Now the people who say these, friends, I have a question to them. Why you are studying organon? Why you are studying philosophy? Why you are studying allied subjects? Why you are studying medical also? ये तो कोई भी दे सकता है. चाहे सारे के सारे probable remedies mix करके दे दो, let anyone act. Is this argument make sense? Does this argument make sense? Does this argument make sense, friends? Saying that अरे let any remedy act. Is it going to make sense? Now this is also not going to happen. The remedies doesn't have brain to decide among themselves, isn't it? So these are basically what do you call it? Unethical way of prescribing. Do you agree with that if I say that this is basically an unethical way of prescribing? How many of you agree with that if I say that? Now some people will say that, some people will very conveniently they will say that, "Arey, let the vital force decide which remedies will act." Matlab, some people may say that our remedies act only upon the vital force. So let the vital force decide which remedy is going to act. Which means that they mean to say that basically the people who give this kind of excuses, they mean to say that vital force, when the vital force is given which 2 or more options, the vital force will have the brain to select for itself which is the most minimum. क्या वाइटल फोर्स के बाद इतना ब्रेन होता है कि वो खुद अपने आप डिसाइड कर लेगा कि मेरे लिए सिमिलिमम कौन सा सही रहेगा? हो सकता है. Is that going to be possible, friends? Confusion comes only when there is lack of clarity. है ना? So we need to upgrade ourselves to that level where there is no scope for confusion. See, small children, छोटे बच्चे जब numbers लिखना सीखते हैं ना, friends, many children have a confusion when they are learning 6 and 9. कभी-कभी 6 की जगह पे 9 लिख देते, 9 की जगह पे 6 लिख देते. Starting में होता है, but the moment their confusion is cleared, they have that clarity, they will not make that mistake. So once clarity is there in your mind, there will be no scope for any confusion. Are you getting my point? So as far as this prescribing polypharmacy or multiple remedies are concerned, friends, what do you think? It should be accepted or discarded? Right number है या wrong number है?
Wrong number.
Now, sir, friends, there are some clever people, those who don't use their brain. They'll say that, अरे क्या फर्क पड़ता है सर, सब देते आए हैं, सब दे रहे हैं, हम भी देंगे. As I said in the very beginning, friends, we are not playing with the health with any machines here. We are playing with the health and life of our patients. And when our responsibility is to handle the health of our patients, is this attitude good? When we say that, Are, who is going to think all these things? Others are also giving, they are claiming results. So we'll also try, we'll also give. You are experimenting with your health, with the health of your patients. So I want a guarantee, friends. I want an assurance. How many are willing to discard this methodology from today? From today, not even from tomorrow, from today. How many are going to discard this methodology? How many are going to give me that assurance? Think twice, because once you have given me that assurance, then you will have to keep your stick with your words. Okay, majority are giving me the assurance. So the methodology of prescribing multiple remedies, we all are unanimously discarding it. We will not entertain such methodologies being mounted on us where more than one remedy is being advised or prescribed. Right. Now let's move on to the next methodology. Friends, which is the most common. There are two books, friends. There are two books which you will find on the table of majority of practitioners. I'm not talking about Ken's repertory. Apart from Ken's repertory, there are two books which you will commonly find on the table of majority of practitioners. Which are those two books? Can anybody tell me which are those two books? Ellen's Keynote. Yes, Ellen's Keynote is one, and Borix Metromedica and Repertory. Ellen's Keynote and Borix Metromedica are the two books which you will find on the table of majority of practitioners. So next, let's discuss on these books, friends. One second, just hold on. Now, Ellen's Keynotes, and can you see the screen, friends? Please confirm. Are you able to see the screen? दिख रहा है स्क्रीन में आपको?
Yes, sir.
So these are the two books which you will find on the table of majority of practitioners today. Now, why these books are so popular, friends? Can anybody tell me the reason? Why these two books are so popular among the practitioners? क्या वजह है? What is the reason?
Single symptom पे मेडिसिन लेना.
Sorry?
सिंगल सिम्टम पे मेडिसिन देने के लिए.
हाँ, सीधा सिम्टम पे मेडिसिन है. हमारा काम एकदम आसान हो जाता है ना. और पैथोलॉजिकल सिम्टम्स भी है, ठीक है. और कॉलेज मैथमेटिक्स सिलेबस में है, इसीलिए हम यूज करते हैं. ठीक है, चलिए, अच्छी बात है. हम यूज तो करते हैं, फ्रेंड्स, लेकिन थोड़ा सा हम इस पे भी दिमाग लगाएंगे. लेट्स यूज अवर ब्रेन. सो फर्स्ट वी विल टेक अप फॉर डिस्कशन द बुक, बोरिक्स बुक. Now, how many of you are there? How many of you are here online who use this book, Borix Repertory and Metromedica? हाँ, आप जो लोग अभी ऑनलाइन हो, आप में से कितने लोग यूज करते हैं, बताइए. सारे स्टूडेंट्स है क्या? चलिए, तो बोरिक्स का बुक आपने कम से कम देखा तो होगा. That book is basically divided into two parts. The first part is the Metromedica part, and the second part is the repertory part. So we'll take up this repertory part for first discussion. Okay. Now, classification of repertories we study in the third year. In some colleges, it is taught in the final year. So when we classify the repertories, under which classification this Borix repertory comes? Can anybody tell me? When we classify the repertories?
Clinical repertory.
Correct. Clinical repertory. Borix repertory is a clinical repertory. Now, what do you mean by clinical repertory? Clinical repertory is a repertory which is based on clinical symptoms. Correct. Now,
Yes, sir.
now, how do we define a clinical symptom? What is a clinical symptom? How do we define a clinical symptom? तो बताएगा, जल्दी जल्दी रिवाइज कर लेंगे तो आसानी हो जाएगी हमारे लिए. These definitions we study in the college days, right? How do we define a clinical symptom? गलत हो गया तो हो गया, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? आपके मार्क्स थोड़ी कटने वाले हैं. बोलिए.
Subjective and objective symptoms, sir. Subjective plus objective.
The book definition of clinical symptom is the clinical symptoms are those symptoms which were never observed during proving. However, clinically they are found to be effective in such and such cases, and that is exactly the reason they are called as clinical symptoms. Do you agree with this definition? I'm not saying this, I'm reading it as it is from the book. Clinical symptoms are those symptoms which are never observed during proving. जो proving में कभी आए ही नहीं, clinical symptoms वो है. Do you agree with this definition, friends? Before we proceed, just confirm. I want to ensure that each and every bit of discussion you are understanding. Then only you will be able to decide on the fate of every methodology that we are discussing. Is it understood what is a clinical symptom?
Yes, sir.
चलिए, ठीक है. So we'll come back to this discussion, friends. We'll come back to this discussion, but before that, we need to discuss something else. Now, just a little while ago, a few minutes before, we discussed that our remedies acts only upon the vital force, thereby ensuring that the deranged vitality is restored back to order. Right. Now, as far as modus operandi of our medicine is concerned, as I said, we don't have any precise idea. Exactly, we don't know how it acts, but we believe that the remedy that we are giving to the patient will go and produce exactly those symptoms which already exist in the patient in a little bit higher intensity, thereby removing the original symptom. So, which means that for the indicated remedy, listen to this very carefully, friends. ध्यान से सुनिएगा. For the indicated remedy to bring about a cure, it should have the potential to produce the symptoms that already exist in a patient. Do you agree with that? If a remedy is supposed to cure a patient, that remedy should have the potential to produce the symptoms, the original symptoms that already exist in a patient. Correct. Now my question is, from where we will get the information that which remedy has the potential to produce which symptoms? कौन सी remedy कौन से symptoms produce कर सकती है, ये इसका information हमें कहाँ से मिलेगा? From where we will get this information? Which remedy has the potential to produce which symptoms? Drug proving. Correct, drug proving. Now, whatever observations that are recorded during drug proving, they are used to compile our Metrimedica. We are not going to prove the drug and collect the symptoms. Indirectly, we are collecting that information from the Metrimedica and repertory. Correct? Do you agree with that? So
Yes, sir.
ड्रग प्रूविंग में जो सिम्टम्स रिकॉर्ड हुए हैं वो उसी के बेसिस पे तो मेट्रीमेडिका कंपाइल हुई है. So when we read the Metrimedica, we get to know that okay, these are the symptoms which were observed during proving. So those symptoms, now listen to this very carefully and then answer, friends. ध्यान से सुनिएगा, उसके बाद yes or no में मुझे जवाब दीजिएगा. So can I say that those symptoms which were observed during drug proving are most reliable? Can we say that to bring about a cure, those symptoms which were produced during drug proving are most reliable? Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
सही बोल रहा हूं ना? And yes, those symptoms which were never observed during proving are least reliable. जब प्रूविंग में ही नहीं आए तो पेशेंट में आने की क्या गारंटी है? Do you agree with that? समझ में आ रही है आपको बात? Those
So yes.
symptoms which were never observed during proving are least reliable. Now we have seen the definition of clinical symptom. Clinical symptoms are those symptoms which were never observed during proving. Then how can a prescription that is made only on the basis of clinical symptoms be reliable? Tell me, सोच के बताइए. जब क्लिनिकल सिम्टम्स ही रिलायबल नहीं है, क्लिनिकल सिम्टम्स के बेसिस पे जो प्रिस्क्रिप्शन दिया गया है वो कैसे रिलायबल हो सकता है बताइए? विल इट बी रिलायबल?
नो सर.
किसी ने अभी सोचा इस एंगल से? कभी किसी ने सोचा है? हैज एनीवन थॉट अबाउट दिस फैक्ट्स फ्रॉम दिस एंगल?
सर बट वो जो सिम्टम्स है वो कहाँ से आए हैं, मतलब व्हाई दे हैव स्टेटेड क्लिनिकल सिम्टम्स, मतलब अगर वो
we will come to that as well. Why, what is the importance? अगर अगर अगर
ओके.
वो रिलायबल नहीं है तो मेट्रिमेटिका में क्यों दिया गया है? या इसके ऊपर हम आएंगे. We'll come to that. Definitely we'll come to that. That's a very intelligent question and definitely that needs an answer. So we'll come to that part. But as far as whatever we have discussed so far is concerned, was it convincing?
नो सर.
It was not convincing.
सर मतलब देना ठीक नहीं है क्लिनिकल
नहीं है ना?
सिम्टम्स. हाँ सर.
चलिए अभी एक प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल मैं आपको बताता हूँ. I'll tell you practical example. I have the Borix repertory with me and I'm just randomly opening a page and it says let's say I'll take in a symptom for example. I'll just take an example, friends. It says arthritis deformities in page number 882, I believe. Now there are a lot of remedies listed against it for these arthritis deformities. Now let's consider just one remedy out of it. Let's say that which remedy is given here? A lot of remedies is given here. Let's say Sina, for example, or maybe Kali iode. Now, if this remedy can be blindly prescribed for this condition, then homeopathic practicing would have been become very simple then. All the patients who come with this arthritis, you can randomly give one or the other remedies from this list. Is it going to help? Without case taking, without individualization, without constructing the totality, blindly prescribing just because it is given in the repertory against that particular rubric, is it going to bring about a cure? I'm talking about cure. Is it going to help? It's not going to help, right? So, if I say that making a prescription just on the basis of clinical symptoms is a wrong number, how many of you will agree with me? How many of you will agree with me if I say that making a prescription just on the basis of clinical symptoms is a wrong number? If anybody wants to argue, friends, most welcome. There is no compulsion to blindly accept whatever I am saying. You want to argue, come forward, no problem. अगर आपको बहस करना, आप कन्विंस नहीं हो तो आर्ग्यू कर सकते हैं आप. किसी को आर्ग्यू करना है? चलिए आगे बढ़े. तो how many of you are going to discard this methodology? How many of you are going willing to give me that assurance? कितने लोग assurance देंगे? देखिए विच मेट्रीमेडिका टू रीड सवाल आएगा, जवाब भी आएगा, बट क्लैरिटी होना चाहिए ना, पहले साफ होना चाहिए अपने माइंड में जो भी मिसकंसेप्शन है, दैट हैज टू गेट रिमूव्ड फर्स्ट, है ना। Now, as far as including the clinical symptoms into Metrimedica is concerned, they are included. Somebody had asked this question, right? किसने पूछा था वो सवाल कि Metrimedica में फिर दिए क्यों हैं? अगर clinical symptoms reliable नहीं है, then why it is given in the Metrimedica and repertory? अभी किसने पूछा था ना सवाल? चलिए उसके जवाब पे आते हैं. See friends, these clinical symptoms only have a confirmatory role to play as far as selection of remedy is concerned. They don't have any decisive role. जैसे मान लीजिए you are drawing a picture. You are drawing a picture of an elephant. You have drawn the head of an elephant. You have drawn the trunk of an elephant body. You have drawn the limbs, legs of an elephant. Now only the tail is remaining. Now, what is the importance of that tail? If you forget to draw that tail, तो वो हाथी ना रह के कुछ और बन जाने वाला है क्या? It is still going to remain elephant only. If you show that picture to somebody and ask them what it is, they will say that it is an elephant, although you have not drawn that tail. Isn't it? Yes or no? And instead of drawing the tail of an elephant, by mistake, if you draw the tail of an ant there, sorry, tail of a rat there, or tail of a, let's say, a dog there, still people will call it as an elephant only. So the role of that tail is minimum. It only have a supportive role. It doesn't have a decisive role. So these clinical symptoms are like these. They only have a supportive role. They don't have a decisive role. How clinically we have to apply it, that we will see later. Now let's see what is given in the book as far as these clinical symptoms are concerned. I am reading from Lectures on Homeopathic Philosophy by J.T. Kent. It says that the admission of clinical symptoms into our Metrimedica must be done with greatest caution. मतलब बहुत सावधानी से क्लिनिकल सिम्टम्स को मेट्रीमेडिका में इंक्लूड करना चाहिए. क्यों? They can only be incorporated after the most searching inquiry, and then should always be so marked that we can tell the clinical from the pathogenetic. Now this is most important, friends. Listen to this. The hasty and inconsiderate adoption of clinical symptoms is certainly an evil, and if pursued to a great extent will render the Metrimedica unreliable. ये किताब में दिया हुआ है. Page number I'll just message me privately because I am reading from the online PDF that is available with me. So you can search it in that. I'll tell you the chapter number later. So what the book says is that if clinical symptoms are randomly added into Metrimedica, that will render the Metrimedica unreliable. You cannot rely on that Metrimedica then. See, कितना बड़ा इंस्ट्रक्शन हमें दिया है लिटरेचर में. मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं, ये रेफरेंस मैं आपको दे रहा हूं किताब से. आई बात समझ में आपको? हैव यू अंडरस्टूड दिस फ्रेंड्स? Is this clear? Please confirm, friends. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि ना कि बोरिंग लग रहा है आप लोगों को?
नो सर.
समझ में आया आपको कितना डेंजरस हो सकता है क्लिनिकल सिम्टम्स के बेसिस पे प्रिस्क्राइब करना? चलिए, लेट्स मूव ऑन. Let's move on, friends. Now, let's come to the Metrimedica part of Borik's book. कितने लोगों को आदत है Borik's Metrimedica पढ़ने की? How many of you have the habit of reading Borik's Metrimedica? Those who have read the Borik's Metrimedica, they may be knowing that you will come across some drugs in Borix Metromedica, which you will not find in any other Metromedica. Borix में कुछ ऐसे rare remedies आपको मिलेंगे जो बाकी किसी और Metromedica में आपको नहीं मिलेंगे. And many times you also observe that the description of those rare remedies are very short. Only for those rare medicine you read it. Okay, fine. We'll come to the fate of those rare remedies also. Many times you will observe that, tell me if I am telling wrong or right. Many times you observe that the description of those rare remedies are very short. Sometimes 2 lines, sometimes 3 lines, sometimes 1 short paragraph, sometimes hardly 4 or 5 lines. Have you observed it? If you do have the book with you right now, you can open it and see.
Yes, sir.
And many a times, many a times, the description under these drugs, if you read it, it will be more of a clinical part. This remedy is good for this condition, this remedy is good for such and such condition, it will help in this condition, it is good for that condition, that's it. Isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, what are such remedies called? These kind of remedies are called as partially proven drugs. They are called as partially proven drugs. Now, what do you mean by partially proven drugs? The drugs which have not been proved to its complete potential fully. Like if you read any polycus drug, let's say arsenic, pulsatilla, or maybe any other sulfur or any other polycus drug you read, right from mind, then head, then eyes, then till head to foot, you will find some of the other descriptions. So those are completely proven drugs. Whereas these kind of drugs, many of those drugs are only based on clinical information only. No proving also has been done for that. They are only clinical information. Many such drugs are there, and they are called as partially proven drugs. Now I'll read out from the book what is given with reference to such partially proven drugs. Book says that this is again from Kent's. I don't exactly remember. It is lesser writing or lectures. I'll tell you, but this is what it is given. In our study of Metromedica, I do not encumber you with partially proved drugs. We can study these after we have studied those that has been well proved. The guiding symptoms contain many medicines only partially proven, and it is often a matter of accident when cures are made with them. ऐसे पार्शियली प्रूवन ड्रग्स आप देते हो पेशेंट को और उससे आपको क्योर मिल जाता है, then that is just an accidental cure. कभी कभार मिल जाएगा. ऐसे एक्सीडेंटल क्योर पे आपको भरोसा करके पेशेंट को प्रिस्क्रिप्शन देना है या कंप्लीट केस लेके पूरी केस को एनालाइज करके टोटलिटी निकाल के रेमेडी सेलेक्ट करना है? What do you think is the best option, keeping in mind the interest of your patient, not your interest? What is the best way? Or how many of you want to depend on such accidental cures? Does anyone want to depend on such accidental cures? So can we rely on these partially proven drugs?
No, sir.
It is a wrong number again. Are you all convinced, friends?
Yes, sir.
अब सोचिए ना, देखिए बुक में क्या दिया है, keep it aside. बुक में क्या दिया है, keep it aside. Just use your logic. If Borik's book says that this remedy is good for this condition and you give it, अरे ये बहुत rare remedy है, बोरिक में दिया है और कहीं नहीं मिलेगा, तुम ट्राई करके देखो. अरे किस बेसिस पे आप ट्राई कर रहे हो? कहाँ है इंडिविजुअलाइजेशन? इन होम्योपैथी द रेमेडी इज नॉट फॉर द डिजीज, द रेमेडी इज फॉर द पेशेंट. फर्स्ट ईयर से हम पढ़ते हैं ना, इन होम्योपैथी वी ट्रीट द पेशेंट एंड नॉट हिज डिजीज. आवर रेमेडीज just ensure that the deranged vitality is restored back to order. Remaining whatever has to be removed is done by the vitality by itself, isn't it? Have you understood this, friends? Is it clear so far? Shall we proceed further? Please confirm.
Yes, sir.
What about others? देखिए यहाँ पे मैं आपको कुछ नया चीज नहीं बता रहा हूं, मैं वही चीज का रेफरेंस दे रहा हूं जो हमारी किताब में दिया है ना? और हम लोग थोड़ा सा लॉजिक भी यूज कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे. चलिए लेट्स मूव ऑन फ्रेंड्स. नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द Allen's keynote. Now first of all let's define what is a keynote. What is a keynote symptom? कौन define करेगा? Sir, what about remedies where it mentioned that these medicines needs reproving, especially? Needs reproving means what? There only the doubt is coming, right? How can you trust and rely upon such prescriptions, remedies? We have to basically study the well-proven drugs first. Now, who is going to define what is a keynote symptom? कौन define करेगा what is a keynote symptom? What is a keynote symptom? Who will define it? The most important symptom of the remedy. Can we say that the red line symptoms of a remedy?
Yes.
Correct. So the red line symptoms of a remedy that are called as the keynote symptoms, which will lead you towards the selection. Now, how many of you have these Allen's keynotes with you? कितने लोगों के पास है? How many have at least seen that book? Have you all seen that book?
Sir.
And you
Yes,
must have also seen Kent's Metromedica.
Yes, sir.
Kent's Metromedica भी आपने देखा है, Allen's keynote भी आपने देखा है. And when we compare the size of Allen's keynote and Kent's Metromedica, what is the proportion? Big. Kent's Metromedica is big. How big it is? Double? 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 10 times bigger? How much bigger it is in size? Just 2 times, almost.
4 to 5.
60-40 ratio. ठीक है. Now, if you open and read, let's say any polyclinic drug, let's consider. Anybody has this book right now with them? किसी के पास अब भी है? Just open it and see. If I am planning to read Arsenicum album, कितने pages है उसमें बताइए arsenic का description? How many pages it is? There it is. Arsenicum album description. कितने pages में है? Just cross check and tell me. बताइए देख के. आर्सेनिक मुझे पढ़ना है एलेंस की नोट से, कितने पेज में उसका डिस्क्रिप्शन है? एलेंस की नोट में 18 पेजेस हैं. आर्सेनिक 18th पेज में है कह रहे हो आप? मैं पूछ रहा हूं कि हाउ मच. अच्छा 18 पेजेस केंट में है. एलेंस की नोट में कितने पेजेस हैं आर्सेनिक? 2.5. See, in one book 18 pages, in the other book just 2.5 pages. What is the difference? The drug is the same, then what is the difference? इतना डिफरेंस क्यों आ रहा है? Why so much difference is there? जो बात नहीं कर रहे फ्रेंड्स, कीप ऑन म्यूट प्लीज. क्रिकेट देखते हो आप लोग? 2020 मैचेस देखते हो आप लोग? लड़के लोग जो है देखते होंगे. Do you watch any time cricket? Friends, those who are not speaking, please keep on mute. If you want to watch a live 2020 cricket match, किसका आवाज आ रहा है ये? Somebody else is speaking in between. What can I do? Is it clear now? Okay, what I'm saying is that friends, if you want to watch a live cricket match, how many hours it will take to watch the complete match, ball by ball, live coverage? How many hours it will take to watch the complete live match? Three hours for 2020, correct. And if you want to just watch the highlights of that match, कितना time लगेगा? If you just want to watch the highlights of that match, how much time it will take? 10 सेकंड में हो जाएगा highlights? हाँ, हो भी सकता है. 1 घंटा नहीं लगेगा. 1 घंटे में भी highlights हो सकता है. But 15 minutes is more than enough. 15 or 20 minutes, isn't it? What is the difference? What is the difference between watching a live cricket match and watching the highlights? Details. Every minute details you will be able to watch and observe if you are watching it completely live. On the other hand, when you are watching the highlights, only the highlights will be shown there. So if an incident has happened in the match, during the match, and the incident had happened, and that is not a part of that highlight, you will miss it out. जैसे मान लीजिए आप लाइव मैच देखने चले गए. अभी हमारी कौन सी, अभी हमारी अपर्णा मैडम है, लेट्स से दैट शी हैज गॉन टू वॉच अ लाइव क्रिकेट मैच, और वहां पे वो बता रही, कह रही 25 ओवर खत्म होने के बाद टीवी पे मुझे दिखाया था वहां पे उन्होंने कैमरा में. अब वो हाइलाइट्स में दिखने वाला है क्या? अपर्णा मैडम को हाइलाइट्स में दिखाएंगे कि 25 ओवर के बाद, 20 ओवर के बाद अपर्णा मैडम का फोटो आया था? नहीं दिखेगा, बिकॉज दैट इज नॉट a highlight, but she was shown on screen. She is telling the fact, but you will not believe it because you only watch the highlights. So complete detail information will not be available if you're just focusing on watching the highlights. So now friends, compare. How many of you will agree if I say that reading a drug from Kent's Mathematica is like watching the live match, and reading the same drug from Ellen's keynote is just like watching the highlights of that match? A lot of things you can miss out if you are just focusing on watching the highlights. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Now just imagine friends, try to listen to this very carefully and think logically. If you have observed a symptom in your patient, if you have observed a symptom in your patient, which is very important, and that symptom is not a keynote symptom of any drug. It is given in some drug, but it is not a keynote symptom. So when you set out to compare which remedy is covering that symptom, if that remedy is not the keynote symptom and you are only focusing on keynote symptoms, you will miss out that remedy. Chances are there or not? I'll give you an example. The moment we say that the patient is fastidious, first remedy that comes into our mind is which one?
Arsenic.
Arsenic. We only know that arsenic is fastidious. But if you open the repertory and see, apart from arsenic, Naxomica is also given. So if you don't know that Naxomica is also fastidious, and when that symptom is there in your patient, you will only focus on arsenic, you will not focus on Naxomica. Isn't it? What I'm saying is that if you only have the knowledge of keynotes, then there is a big chance that you will miss out symptoms which are in quality in your patient, and when it comes to comparing it with what is given in the Mathematica. If you only remember the keynotes, there is a chances of making a big mistake there. How many of you agree with me? बाकी लोग सुन रहे हैं, समझ में नहीं आ रहा है या कन्विंस नहीं है, बताइए ना फ्रेंड्स, बिकॉज दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ लेट्स रीड फ्रेंड्स what is given in our literature with respect to such keynote symptoms. पढ़ा किसी ने? A keynote prescriber is but a memory prescriber. He has memorized only and has not made a part of his understanding. Such prescribers are almost useless, and it is among them that we will find falling from grace. Falling from grace means अपने स्तर को खुद नीचे गिराना, degrading, downgrading ourselves. That is falling from grace. Now in the book it is said that the prescribers who only depend on keynotes to make a prescription, such prescribers are totally useless. आपको useless बनना है? आपको समझ में आ रहा है फ्रेंड्स with what reference this is said? But it doesn't mean that keynotes are completely useless. No, it doesn't mean that. What the literature further says, let's read. There are strange and rare symptoms even in parts of the body which the experienced physician learns are so guiding that they must be ranked in the higher and first classes. It means that even in parts of the body also sometimes you get some strange peculiar symptoms which have usually high value. What the book further says, this includes some keynotes which may guide safely to a remedy or to shaping of results, provided there is a condition, provided that the mental and physical generals do not stand contrary as to their modalities and thereby opposing the keynote symptoms. This clearly says that when keynote symptoms are opposed by the mental and physical generals, the mental and physical generals should be given more importance to. I'll give you a very simple example, friends. If you want to listen it from the patient's mouth, just remind me after the class is over. I'll share that audio with you all. That case is uploaded in our YouTube channel. I had consulted a patient friend who was saying that he is having pain in his chest, and that pain that he is having in chest is basically localized to such a small area that it can be covered by tip of a finger. Pain that can be covered by tip of a finger is a keynote symptom of which drug, friends?
Calibicromium.
Calibicromium. Now, just because the patient has told this, it is a very rare, peculiar strain symptom. Are we blindly going to give Calibi to that patient, or are we going to wait and study the whole case and then decide the remedy? When the whole case was studied, the mental and physical generals were pointing towards arsenic. The mental and physical generals were pointing towards arsenic, and the keynote was totally different remedy. So in such cases, keynote symptom will lose its value. Getting my point? Is this understood?
Yes,
But keynote symptoms becomes very important. Keynote symptoms becomes very important when mental and physical generals are supporting it. Then you will be double confirmed that yes, this remedy is going to work for me. So have you understood? So these keynote symptoms only have a confirmatory place again. If the mental generals and physical generals are supporting, then keynote symptoms have more value. But if the mental symptoms and if the mental generals and physical generals are opposing the keynotes, then the keynote symptoms will lose its value. Is this understood so far?
yes, sir. Clear.
कुछ लोग सोच रहे होंगे आज टाइम खत्म क्यों नहीं हो रहा, क्योंकि आज ही मैंने अपग्रेड किया है जूम में. थोड़ी देर और कंटिन्यू करें डिस्कशन, अगर बोरिंग नहीं लग
Yes,
रहा
sir.
है.
Yes, sir. Continue.
चलिए. Now I'll give you practical example, friends. I'll tell you 3 important symptoms that I have observed in my patient, and you have to tell me which remedy you are going to give. The 3 important symptoms that I have observed in my patient are: first one, extreme thirst for large quantities of cold water. Second, aggravation from least motion. And third, dryness in mouth, excessive dryness in mouth. These are the 3 important symptoms which are in higher intensity in my patient. Which remedy covers these 3 symptoms? ये जो 3 symptoms मैंने आपको बोला है वो कौन से remedy के keynotes है?
ब्रायनिया
के keynotes है. Dryness, aggravation, dryness of mucous membrane, extreme thirst, and aggravation from least motion. So how many people will go with Bryannia for this case? कितने लोग देंगे? चलिए, पेशेंट का बाकी कंप्लेंट्स मैं आपको बताता हूँ, ध्यान से सुनिएगा. पेशेंट को लास्ट नाइट से बहुत प्रोफ्यूज वोमिटिंग और डायरिया हो रहा है. The patient is having very profuse vomiting and very profuse diarrhea since last night, and the patient is brought to me next day morning. And by the time the patient is brought to me, he is in severe dehydration. He is having vertigo, weakness, वो unconscious होने की stage में है. He can't even think about moving his eyeballs also. उतना थक गया है बंदा वो. Each and every complaint that he is having is aggravated by least motion. In such a case, having excessive thirst is a common symptom or uncommon symptom?
Common symptom.
Common symptom. Now, how does the body generate thirst? How does the body generate thirst? By causing what? फिजियोलॉजी में पढ़ते हैं ना हम लोग. फिजियोलॉजी में थर्स्ट कैसे फील होता है? When the mucous membrane, dryness of mucous membrane, correct? So when lot of fluid is lost from the body, there is something called homeostasis. Body will try to restore that lost fluid by generating thirst, and for generating thirst, it will cause dryness of mucous membrane, including mouth. So in this case, in this example, dryness of mucous membrane is a common symptom or uncommon symptom?
Common symptom.
Common symptom. And the patient is in severe dehydration. All his complaints are aggravated from least motion. He can't think about walking or even moving his head because he is so weak. Is it a common symptom or uncommon symptom?
Common symptom.
Then what Bryannia is going to do in such cases? What Bryannia is going to do? What do you expect from Bryannia? So what I mean to say is that, friends, what I mean to say is that sometimes you even get such cases where the symptoms may be a keynote of particular drug, fine, but that symptom will not have value in that concerned patient. विराट कोहली is one of the greatest batsmen, but अगर उसको बैट की जगह पे अगर वो टेनिस बैट देंगे खेलने के लिए, वो क्या खेल पाएगा? है ना? वो टेनिस बैट का इंपॉर्टेंस टेनिस प्लेयर के लिए है, क्रिकेट प्लेयर के लिए नहीं है. तो बैट अगर क्रिकेट बैट देना है, क्रिकेटर के हाथ में देना चाहिए, उसी को उसकी वैल्यू पता है. तो कीनोट है ड्रग का, पेशेंट में भी अगर वो कीनोट है, स्ट्रांग है, यूनिक है, पेक्यूलर है, तभी मैच करेगा ना. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? आर यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग फ्रेंड्स? Blindly the keynote prescription doesn't make sense. आप लोग फेसबुक पे जाइए, ट्विटर पे जाइए, इंस्टाग्राम पे जाइए, बहुत सारे सीनियर डॉक्टर्स आपको केस प्रेजेंट करते हैं, 1 या 2 कीनोट्स बताएंगे और रेमेडी बता देंगे. क्या सीखने को मिला? बताइए, आपको कुछ सीखने को मिला वहां से? What you are getting a chance to learn from such cases? वो कीनोट में पेशेंट की कितनी वैल्यू है? That is not the way to practice, friends. Are you getting my point? See, I'm not criticizing anyone personally, friends, but we all are belonging to one family. तो अगर हमारी फैमिली मेंबर्स में से किसी की गलती हो रही है, वो गलती सुधारना हमारा काम है. इट इज अवर ड्यूटी, ताकि फैमिली को कोई ब्लेम ना करे, हमारे फर्टिलिटी को कोई ब्लेम ना करे. Majority are not willing to listen only. That is the problem why homeopathy is facing critics and allegations. Nobody is willing to learn, friends. Isn't it? Shall we move on to the next methodology? The homeopathic therapeutics. Very important. Very important topics. Can anybody tell me which is the best remedy for epilepsy in homeopathy? Which is one of the best remedy for epileptic condition, epileptic fits in homeopathy? कौन बताएगा? Cicuta. Anybody else?
Cupramet.
Cicuta. Best remedy है. How many of you agree with that? चलिए, मैं आपको 100 cases देता हूँ epilepsy के. I'll give you 100 cases of epilepsy. You have to cure all these 100 cases with Cicuta only. होगा? Will it be possible?
नहीं होगा sir. No sir.
No, sir.
Then what is the point in saying that Cicuta is the best remedy for epilepsy, madam? Is there any point?
Wrong number sir.
Wrong number है ना? Can there be any best homeopathic remedy for XYZ condition? ये तो हमारा लॉजिक हुआ. अब देखते हैं लिटरेचर में क्या दिया है. देखना है? देखेंगे?
Yes, sir.
This is taken from Kent's philosophy, lectures on homeopathic philosophy by J.T. Kent. What it says, every few days, I run across a homeopathic physician who asks, what remedy are you using in such and such case? Such a thing has no place in my mind, and I look upon one who speaks in that way as a man untrained in homeopathics. I truly have lost my patience over such things for the old gray heads. Old gray heads means the people who say that I have n number of experience, 30 years experience, 40 years experience. I truly have lost my patience over such things for the old gray heads who have practiced for years and pretended to practice homeopathy. Do not hesitate to say that the best remedy for epilepsy is so and so. What a nonsense! अब आगे जब आपको फेसबुक में कोई पोस्ट दिखेगा, आपकी हिम्मत होगी ये टाइप करने की what a nonsense. That is when we can say that you are daring to be wise. कितने लोग हिम्मत करेंगे ये कहने की, कम से कम ये कहने की कि ये रॉन्ग नंबर है? बताइए. How many of you will dare that, show that daring to comment that this is wrong number? But I have a suggestion. Those who are students, friends, those who are students still, आप अभी भी कॉलेज में हो, to keep this wrong number only in your mind, because if your teacher is telling something like this, and if you tell your teacher that it is wrong number, then वाइवा में पक्का आपका wrong number लगेगा, इंटर्नशिप पे भी wrong number लगेगा. तो जो स्टूडेंट्स है वो थोड़ी सावधान रहें, जो रॉन्ग नंबर है उसको समझ के रखें. टीचर के सामने अगर आपने बोल दिया कि ये रॉन्ग नंबर है तो आपको वाइवा में और इंटर्नशिप कंप्लीशन में रॉन्ग नंबर लगेगा पक्का. ठीक है ना? तो थोड़ा याद रखें. So there is no best remedies in homeopathy, friends, and there is one best remedy, and that is the simillimum. It can vary. आपके लिए आर्सेनिक सिमिलिमम है तो मेरे लिए पल्सेटिला होगा, आगे वाले के लिए ग्राफाइटिस होगा, दूसरे किसी के लिए कैम्फर होगा या कोई और होगा. The best remedy is always the simillimum. Understood? So there are no best remedies in homeopathy, friends. Are you all convinced?
Yes sir.
Friends, I was teaching in college. I have taught in college for 1.5 years. तो वहां पे जब मैं रेपर्टरी पढ़ाता था फाइनल ईयर के स्टूडेंट्स को, तो I used to emphasize on this single medicine, and I used to motivate them to ask questions. अगर आपके टीचर बता रहे हैं तो पूछिए ना, क्यों बुक में कुछ और दिया है, वो कुछ और बता रहे, तो आपको तो पूछना बनता है, आप पढ़ने के लिए पैसे दे रहे हो, आप पूछिए। तो एक स्टूडेंट ने हिम्मत करके पूछ लिया था कि सर इन बुक इट इज रिटन दैट ओनली वन रेमेडी हैज टू बी गिवन। वो इंटर्न थी, ओपीडी में उसने पूछा था सर को, सर व्हाई यू हैव प्रिस्क्राइब्ड 2 रेमेडीज, कैन यू एक्सप्लेन अस। वो सर ने उसको इतना डांटा कि वो बच्ची रोने लग गई, एंड रोते रोते वो मेरे पास आई थी कि सर आपने बोला कि पूछो, देखो मैंने पूछा तो मुझे रुला दिए। मैंने बोला, मैंने कहाँ बोला था कि आपको भी पूछना है, कीप इट इन योर माइंड। एक कान से सुनो, दूसरे अगर नहीं पच रहा है दूसरे कान से निकाल दो। आप कॉलेज में सवाल उठाएंगे, आपका एक्सटेंशन होना पक्का है। Unfortunately, friends, that should not be the case ideally. People are paying money to get some quality knowledge, right? So this should not happen ideally at college level. Anyhow, that was on a lighter note, friends. I'm not criticizing any institution, nor I'm saying that it happens in every college, but in some colleges it does happen. Chaliye, let's move on. Now, there are many people, friends, who have wrong misconceptions as far as homeopathy is concerned. बहुत सारे लोग ऐसे हैं जिनके मन में गलत धारणाएं हैं होम्योपैथी को लेके।